Hi there, Coach Sage Canaday of SageRunning.com here with another training talk. Today we're going to talk about speed as a premium in distance running training. It's very highly valued, sprinkled in. As distance runners, I think sometimes you get this, there's this misconception you do a bunch of LSD, long, slow distance, go out and do a long run every day, especially with the ultra running community. Like, I'm doing this, 50 mile, 80K race or this 100 mile race. Well, if you really want to get to reach your potential and finish efficiently and run a good time and be super, super fit, you need to sprinkle in some of this intensity. Now, the term speed also has a lot of different meanings to people. It's a matter of perception and terminology. Some people think, I got to go to the track and burn a bunch of 400-meter repeats as fast as I can, right? 4x400, fastest possible average. Very painful workout. That's more like a 800-meter, 1,500-meter specialist type of workout, though. Right? You're swimming in lactic acid. It's too hard. You're going to burn yourself out. It literally feels like you're burning. Your muscles are on fire. We're just talking about like pure speed. You're looking at getting pure sprint speed, 100-meter sprint time, 200-meter sprint time, and then kind of working up from there. But it's really a matter of efficiency, and that's in distance running events. I don't care if you're running the 1,500 meters or the mile on a track, or you're doing 100 miles in the mountains, 100 miles in the mountains. It's all about efficiency in distance running, and that efficiency comes in different forms through your running form, what shoes you're wearing, your body weight, your mechanics, your muscle strength, muscle tendon strength, how you move efficiently in terms of your running economy, but also metabolically, right? Your how well your heart could pump blood to your muscles, how well you utilize fuel, burning fat and carbohydrates, your hydration levels, things like that, how you utilize oxygen all comes into play. Now, speed training, though, in distance running, and we'll start with a story, go back in time when I started running, a long time ago, it was over 20 years ago. I was in middle school. I started running 1,500 meters. So Oregon was one of those few progressive states who actually ran metric, right? 1,500 meters. Sometimes you ran a mile, I guess, in like PE gym class, but racing 1,500 meters on the track, very serious back then. I was 12 years old. I was very serious about 1,500. It felt like a sprint when I raced, and people would be like, how do you run a 1,500 meter and it's like a sprint? Well, it actually felt like a sprint to me. I remember thinking, I gotta like sprint these 3 3/4 laps, cause this is like all out for me. And it wasn't really a sprint. I could obviously sprint 100 meters or 200 meters a bit faster, but I wasn't slowing down that much, right? I was still running 18 seconds per 100 meters. Maybe I could sprint 100 meters in 15 seconds, right? So the whole idea with distance running is that you take your short distance sprint speed, whether it's 100 meter dash, 200 meter dash, 400 meter dash sprint speed, right? Your pure speed. And as you double the distance, you go up to 800 meters, you go up to a mile, 1,600 meters, you go up to 3K or 5K. You don't want to be slowing down that much. And that goes all the way up to, okay, if I run a 5K in 18 minutes, can I run a 10K? Can I run two 18:30s or 19-minute 5Ks back to back and run that for 10K? Or if I'm running a half marathon in 1:30, how close can I get to 3 hours flat in the full marathon, right? I don't want to slow down that much, even though I have to run double the distance. And even you're looking at 50 miles to 100 miles, 80K to 160K, you don't want to be slowing down that much, even though you have to cover a much longer distance. And so it all comes back down to that efficiency, that running economy. And how do you develop that? Well, you increase your mileage. That's one thing. And I always preach on here, easy aerobic base building, easy conversational paces, right? You're running 50K a week, just all easy, relaxed running, slow pace. Maybe over the course of 6 weeks, you bump that up to 100K a week or 60 miles a week, right? You go from 30 miles a week to 60 miles a week. Slowly built up that mileage, didn't get hurt. It's always an injury risk when you increase mileage. It's also an injury risk when you increase intensity. Slowly build that base up, easy aerobic. You're going to get some aerobic adaptations, mitochondria, size and development, muscle fiber, fat burning, all these positive things that are going to give you stamina and endurance so you're not breathing as hard, and that you could go the distance. You could do a 32K or 20 mile long run and not be totally dead the next day, right? maybe you're pretty sore. I'm usually pretty sore, but you've built that up and you could finish an ultra on that, and you've probably improved a lot, and that's just doing all easy pace running. But if you want to get to the next level, if you want to really progress in your training, run with better form, be more efficient, and lower your times and get more competitive, you're going to have to be sprinkling in some speed work. And it's kind of the whole idea of why Coach Sandy and I wrote our book, The Sage Running Secret. It's a guide to speedy ultras, right? People have this misconception, like, ultra running, it's all slow distance, long slow distance. But the whole idea was to bring in that background of track interval speed training and serious road marathon training, especially for people that want to qualify for Boston or run under 3 hours in the marathon. You're going to have to be hitting some paces much faster than your race pace. If you go out and run easy every day, maybe you're hitting your ultra race pace on the trails or something. But to get that speed work and that efficiency, that good running form, that good muscle strength, and to get more bang for your buck, really, per time training, you do speed work, you do intensity. Now, what does that mean exactly? Well, it gets pretty complicated, and it does change over time, but generally, you're doing maybe 10%, 15%, 20% of your weekly mileage at higher intensities, above 80, 85%. So max heart rate, above the threshold, we say. But that could be hill sprints, right? It could be what we call strides. I've done a whole video on strides where you're doing 4 to 6 times 100 meters after an easy day. And it's an easy run. It's not a workout. You did an easy run. Maybe you ran for an hour, easy pace. And then at the very end, you do 4 times 100 meters near sprint speed. You probably want to start off closer to 5K pace so you don't pull a muscle. But when you're running fast, you're running with better form usually. And, even if you're doing 100 meters, full recovery, it's teaching you to stimulate your fast twitch muscle fibers, all the muscle fibers in your legs. It's teaching you to run with a better arm swing, arm pump, better leg mechanics, a higher knee drive, a bigger butt kick in the back with the heel, and to pop off your toes more, to get a really fast stride rate, over 180 steps a minute, and to lengthen your stride as well, right? You have to run fast, you're increasing your stride rate, you're also increasing your stride length, you're getting better extension. And yeah, you're not going to race a 5K or 10K at this sprint speed, but as you get closer to it, the whole idea is you close that pace intensity spectrum down, and so you get more efficient. And if you're more efficient running at faster than 5K pace, hopefully you're more efficient at 5K pace, and you're probably going to be more efficient at 10K and marathon pace. And that goes all the way up to the ultra marathon distance. So that's really the idea. Now that's the short end of the spectrum. 6 times 10-second hill sprints up a hill, working on that knee drive, high knee lift. It's not sustainable, but you're stimulating the fast twitch muscle fibers, you're spiking your heart rate little bits. Now you start progressing in your training, and maybe you're doing that during base phase as you're building your mileage up. It's mostly slow, easy pace running. You haven't gotten into the real tough, puke-inducing workouts, the VO2 max repeats, we call them. They don't necessarily have to be super, super hard. They're going to be pretty hard, and they're going to come later in a training phase usually. And this is what we've done with all our sagerunning.com training plans. The ultramarathon plans as well, you see sprinkled in things like hill repeats, things like track intervals where you're doing kilometer repeats or you're doing mile repeats, things with fartlek sessions or timed intervals, we should say, where you're doing these 2-minute, 3-minute, 4-minute surges, sometimes during the course of a long run, but you're sprinkling in this intensity. And that's really the whole idea, is that you do get a lot of bang for your buck. You get a lot of value for your time spent training when you're doing some high intensity workouts. And as you do these interval sessions, running at much faster than race pace, you get some really positive and some really fast adaptations in the heart and lungs, the aerobic system, but also in your muscle fibers, stimulating the fast twitch muscle fibers, improving your neuromuscular coordination and that running form, that leg drive, right? It's hard to run. It's hard to be heel striking when you're trying to sprint. It irons out any of your form flaws. When you have to run really fast, your body's like, hey, I need to be more efficient. And then the whole idea is that when you're racing, you're just more efficient. You have better running economy. You're utilizing oxygen better to do work, right? Your body, moving your body a certain pace over a certain time, a certain distance. It's just more efficient. And that's really the idea of adding in speed work. So I know a lot of people get confused of, how much speed work should I do? Once they're sprinkled in, that's really the magic behind any training plan or program, is knowing when to do things at the right intensity and how much to do it, right? But the whole idea is that you're always working on some element of your speed, your running form. You're still working on your long runs. You got to put in the mileage. That's really the main thing, is aerobic base building. This doesn't have to be all anaerobic work or, swimming in lactic acid type of work, because you're working on mechanics, right? If you're doing 100-meter strides, you're not developing a lot of lactic acid. You want to make sure you have a 2-minute recovery in between each run. It's not supposed to be hard. If you're doing something really hard, like 400 or 800 meter repeats with a really short rest, as fast as you could go, that's lactic acid stuff. That's hard. That should be limited more. The vast majority of your miles are going to be easy conversational pace. But if we look at it in terms of 5-pace theory, and again, we have a free download on our website, sagerunning.com, training plan website, the pace intensity spectrum. You've got race pace right here in the middle, but then you've got 2 notches faster than race pace. This is race pace. You got 2 notches faster. Actually, I use my fingers usually. Middle finger flicking off race pace. But then you've got 2 notches faster, right? You've got maybe your tempo run pace, up tempo pace. Maybe it's down to 10K pace almost. And then you've got 5K pace and faster. Maybe your strides, sprints, 400 meter repeats, hill repeats. So some really high intensity stuff. Then on the other side of the spectrum, you've got some slower paces. Maybe it's about marathon pace or up-tempo pace, long run pace, right, on average. And then you've got your easy recovery day pace. And that's kind of an oversimplification. That's the idea of varying your pace, varying your training, and adding in some muscle confusion, so to speak, to your training. You're mixing things up. You're stimulating the fast-twitch muscle fibers. You're generating a lot more power, some more stride power, better running form, but also spiking that heart rate up in the 90%, over 90% range, right? Getting a lot of aerobic adaptations through that kind of high intensity. But it's limited. It's very limited, and you're sprinkling it in, and you sprinkle it in more as you want to peak and reach your peak fitness and get in really good shape. But high mileage usually gives people, consistent high mileage, as long as you're not getting hurt, gives people a lot of return on their training time. The high intensity stuff, though, you got to squeeze it in when you can, because it's going to really give you that extra edge. So the final note, yeah, you could do a lot of high intensity hard intervals and get in shape really fast, but it's not going to be sustainable long term. You might, have a couple months where you're doing really, really well, then you're going to get an overuse injury. High intensity training's pretty demanding on the skeletal muscular system, and you're going to hit a ceiling with your aerobic adaptations. Whereas if you have consistently higher mileage, even if it's easy pace aerobic running, you start getting that improvement, and then you sprinkle in this intensity, this speed work in a very periodized manner, changing over time, evolving over time as you adapt to the higher stress of your training. And you don't want to overtrain, you don't want to get hurt. It's not always a foolproof plan. Those are always risks, especially if you over race. But you're slowly building on that, and you're sprinkling in this intensity. And that's why speed is a premium for distance runners. And it's not something that can be overlooked. And yeah, you could also get these things through also adding in some core work, some gym work, right? I've been doing some squats, following Coach Sandy's advice, doing some exercises, right? Working the core, because it's all about improving running form. And if you're improving your form at shorter distance, working on that speed, getting in touch with those fast twitch muscle fibers, then you could translate that over in efficiency and longer distance and build that speed endurance, so to speak. And that's really a key. But again, you can't neglect the long runs and the consistent high mileage tempo runs, but you're also working at the shorter end of the spectrum, even doing things like 100-meter strides and 10-second hill sprints, even though you're training for these super long races. And it's really a matter of closing down that pace spectrum and getting more efficient. Of course, you want to avoid injury. That's my spiel on that. Again, check out our free resources on our coaching website, sagerunning.com. Coach Sandy and I run the website. It's a small business, but we've got some free downloads. Couch to 5K plan, that pace intensity spectrum chart I was talking about, as well as a women's first 50K plan. There's a lot of resources on there, links to our podcast, things like that, discount codes from our sponsors. Check that out, sagerunning.com. Be sure to subscribe on here for more of these types of videos, and also check out our playlist. I got a lot of videos. I'll put the one up on strides there so you can kind of break it down. But thank you guys. Thanks to the Patreon supporters for really making this possible. Hope your running's going well, and stay tuned for more Sage Running videos.